And welcome back to coverage of Grand Prix Oklahoma City. I'm Marshall Sutcliffe in the booth with Jacob Van Lunen, and we see a little high mom there from Willie Edel on the left-hand side. He's playing against Ben Chapman. Willie's from Brazil, and he has no one drop here.
Willie has a very strong blue-black deck.
Okay.
He's going to be facing off against Ben Chapman's red-green deck.
All right, so Ben has an Opaline Unicorn, but it's going to get Farika's Cured right out of existence here before it can even tap for a mana. 2 life gain there for Willie Edel.
Willie has 2 Freakus Cures in his deck.
Okay, so he's happy to fire one off. Yep. No 3-drop here from Willie, though. It's kind of interesting.
Yeah, Willie's decks is one of the few decks I've seen in this format where you might actually want to draw first. And it looks like he drew a Shipwreck Singer, kind of a turn too late here. Would have much rather drawn that card.
On turn 2 or turn 3, yeah. He's facing a Borderland Minotaur, which is just huge. I mean, it's interesting how, even though that whole block of text you see on Borderland Minotaur is just flavor text, these type of cards really can slip under the radar, right? I mean, a 4/3 for 4 does work. Let's see if it's going to pick up some Bestow. No, but it's a Centaur Battlemaster. He is not going to offer the trade. Now, remember, thanks to Erebos' Emissary's ability, with all those cards in hand for Willie, he could just discard a creature and make it into a 5/5, and it looks like Ben doesn't want to take the chance. Makes sense.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. That's just too big of a swing in Willie's favor if he's able to just trade, a card in hand and no mana for a 4/3. And
he's going to put up even more defense here, Willie. It's a Baleful Eidolon that's going to get bestowed onto the Emissary, so that thing's not going anywhere. But here's a Spear Point Oread. Wow, onto his Centaur Battlemaster. He's going to get a Heroic Trigger, making it a 6/6, plus it gets 2/2 extra from the Spear Point Oread and First Strike. It's an 8/8 First Strike.
Yeah, and that
huge
First Strike
swing.
Is huge.
It's absolutely massive because it basically means that the Death Touch isn't going to matter unless Willie wants to ditch. So it's at 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah, he's going to have to ditch 3 creatures or something that's just unacceptable. So that Centaur Battlemaster is a huge issue here for Willie. He's going to need to find a way to get rid of that thing very quickly.
Willie was probably hoping that it was just about basically anything else.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Erebos' Emissary doing work up until that point. But here's a Scholar here. He's going to get to Scry 2.
And he needs to aggressively find his Sip of Hemlock here. It doesn't really look like there's much else in his deck that can deal with this.
Does he have a Griptide?
He does not have a Griptide.
Does he have a Voyage's End?
He does not.
Oh, no. Does he have a Sea God's Revenge?
He does not.
Oh, baby. So Sip of Hemlock or bust? Is that what we're looking at here?
Sip of Hemlock or bust here.
All right, well, he hasn't immediately put one on the top, so I'm going to assume he doesn't see it there. He's carefully considering how his plans are going to go. I mean, he can chump block the Battlemaster. So, if he needs, he can chump block with his Erebos' Emissary. Then he can chump block with the Eidolon. So he could have a few more draw steps, but this is not a great way for him to get ahead. Horizon Scholar could chump block too, but these are just so not where you want to be. But he's going to kick things off with an attack here from the Erebos' Emissary, and I think it's just going to be for 4. It is.
I mean, he also has an Abhorrent Overlord, which can, chump block as well as anything else. So.
Especially on this board. Abhorrent Overlord would bring in 4 Harpies with it too. And it just enable him to just outright race the Battlemaster. The thing to remember about the Battlemaster as well, it can get absolutely huge, which we've seen here. It ultimately is kind of in the big dumb guy category where it doesn't have any evasion, doesn't get you ahead in any other way. So it just sort of demands blocks eventually. But it looks like both creatures are going to attack, and I think that the Battlemaster is going to get in. Now, this is definitely a risk for Willie. He's sitting at 14, couple of combat tricks, and this thing could just be over, but he's got to take the risk. He's going to go for the trade with the Minotaur.
Oh, wow, and it looks like his opponent has...
What does he have?
He has the flash +2/+2 aura. So, yeah, now that's an extra 5 damage coming in. Feral Invocation.
Feral Invocation? Oh, no. He doesn't use it to save his guy. He wants to get as much damage as he can. It's actually only going to get Willie down to 1 here, though.
I don't know if I like that. I think I just save the guy. You're putting your opponent to such a low life total.
I kind of feel like that, too.
At this point, you're...
Because Willie still is going to have time here. I mean, he's got 2 chump blockers on board.
You're going to somebody's house for breakfast, and, you might as well have your eggs in 2 different baskets instead of 1.
I mean, as long as they get cooked,
you're going to get your breakfast.
Yeah. All right, so let's see what Willie can come up with here. A Born Overlord still would be absolutely fantastic. He's going to kick things off with an attack, though, so he's got something. Here's 2 for the Shipwreck Singer. That's probably just going to have to jump in the way. And he's also got a Nimbus Naiad, which he's just going to cast straight up. No bestow here.
So, Karametra's Acolyte coming down can actually produce 4 mana.
Yeah, it looks like it's a little late for that, though, huh? I mean, as far as really maximizing on that ability. The more important thing is that it's lethal.
Yeah.
As a
1/4,
it's actually a lethal
relevant
attacker. Yeah, it really is. Willie is trying to find a way that he can race, and he does have Ben down to 12 here. This is going to get interesting. That Battlemaster is absolutely out of control. Sitting at, 13? It's a 13-13? All right, so Willie has to attack with his Nimbus Naiad, and then he's going to play a Prescient Chimera post-combat. So he is just keeping ahead here, but it looks like he's ready to start blocking with Erebos' Emissary, which is exactly what he does. He left that behind because if his opponent... Oh, geez, now a Polis Crusher, too? Ben Chapman, I like this deck.
Yeah, he also, his deck seems insane.
Where's the
Reaper
beef?
of the Wilds in the hand. And despite having access to huge amounts of mana,
yeah, but that's actually
black mana.
No, but this is going to matter now because now he can use that thing to make his Polis Crusher huge.
Monstrous.
And remember,
when
Baleful
that goes
Eidolon
monstrous, it
and
matters.
Nimbus Naiad, they cannot block Polis Crusher. Also, it has trample. But they actually just can't block it because it has protection from enchantments, and they're both enchantments. So Willie Edel in a tough spot here, just under massive amounts of pressure.
Polis Crusher's last line of text not going to matter here because if he deals combat damage, well, then
game
that's
ends,
going to be the end of the game.
So Willie Edel lining up an attack with Nimbus Naiad here. He does attack. And there it is, all that mana, and I think this might just do it here. Let's find out. Oh, wow, Fanatic of Mogus. Now, that's interesting, too, because that's a good thing for Willie to know that he has.
Yes.
I think I like just attacking there.
I agree.
You agree with that?
Because even if something happens where you don't win by just attacking, then you can just play the Fanatic post-combat.
Right, and he's got to use up his mana or whatever it is
and you get to see
that.
more stuff from him also.
Yeah, so I think that, that's a small thing, right? Like, that isn't one of those, it's not, like, you certainly wouldn't call that a huge mistake, but that's one of those small edges. You get a look at Ben here, where you really don't want to let Willie Edel know that you have that card.
Willie Edel will use that information in
He
future games.
absolutely will.
He's pretty good at this game.
He is, and those are the type of cards that are very difficult to play around until you know that your opponent has it. Same thing with Grey Merchant of Asphodel. We've seen that a few times here, and if you don't know that they have it, that's the kind of card that can just finish you off out of nowhere once you think you've stabilized. All right, we're going to jump over to our other match, which is Vincent Johnson versus Paul Rietzel. Oh, both of them are shuffling? Okay. We're just going to stick here with Willie then.
It's been known to.
Take a look at Willie Edel, ranked 6th on the top 25 pro rankings right now. He's from
Jund.
He does, and he's very good at playing Jund as well. He's had a lot of success with it. In a lot of different flavors, he tends to put twists on it that are interesting and usually effective for the tournaments that he plays.
Yeah, I mean, when it's slower Jund decks aren't very good, you see Willie playing very aggressive Jund decks. When aggressive Jund decks are getting, out mid-range, then you see Willie with a ton of Rakdos returns and things like Primeval Bounty sometimes. I mean, he's somebody who's pretty dynamic.
He really is.
He'll change that Jund deck. He'll make it beat you.
Yep, and there's Willie Edel right there.
Kind of hard to play the aggressive Jund deck right now, but there's somebody who's going to do it. It's probably going to be that guy.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now, what is Willie doing here? Do you see how many cards he's putting into sleeves here? Is he taking out an entire color?
It seems like it. I mean, a lot of the cards that Willie had that game were just really poorly matched against his opponent. Willie has things like Peluchronos in his sideboard, double Sedge Scorpion.
Really?
Defeat.
He has 2 Sedge Scorpions?
Yeah, I mean,
I wouldn't be
those
surprised to see green at all here then.
Oh, definitely. I mean, those cards are so good against what he saw from his opponent. In the last game, he had an Annul, and his opening hand had 1 blue mana open for virtually the entire game, and the only 2 turns where he didn't have a blue open were the 2 turns his opponent bestowed something. And
so do you think he's going to pair it with black then? It's going to be a green-black situation here, or do you think it's going to be green-blue? Assuming we actually haven't seen what color he put in, but we're just making an assumption here.
See, it could be. This is pretty interesting. I think he has to play the black. I mean, his black is very deep.
Okay, and that Baleful Eidolon quite good versus the deck like what Ben Chapman's
two
playing?
Baleful Eidolons.
Oh, jeez. So he could have 2 of those and 2 Scorpions against green-red?
Yeah.
Yeah, please.
Yes, please. That sounds wonderful to me.
Yeah, it sounds fantastic. You know what would be sweet? Bestowing it onto a Scorpion.
Oh, my goodness.
Doesn't actually do anything. But really, it just sits there and gets in the way
twice.
Though. Yeah, I'm just saying, like, the 2 instances of Death Touch don't do anything.
Yeah, bestowing it doesn't really do anything, though. You're right, because it already had Death Touch. And return 5 on a 2/2 Death Touch and a 1/1 Death Touch. There aren't really. Maybe you're like hasting an extra 1 damage into play by doing that.
Hey, that's one of the jobs that Bestow has is just that.
I also wouldn't be surprised if he just changed the cards that he was playing that are on color here.
All right, let's take a quick look over at our other match here. That is Paul Rietzel on the left-hand side, Vincent Johnson on the right. And looks like Paul has a 1-drop, and it is beating down, although not super effective at that. Much better blocker than it is attacker.
Yeah, Paul also stuck on 2 lands here. Not very good for him. It seems like he kept a 2-land hand with a turn 1 Scorpion, turn 2 Leaf Crown Dryad.
But it got dissolved.
Yeah.
Pretty brutal. That is a non-land card. He is going to offer the trade here. Oh, he blocked it.
Oh, I'm not surprised with that block. I mean, when you think about it, when your opponent's stuck on 2 lands, and it's also likely that Paul mulliganed a lot this game.
All right, but
it looks like
I want you to finish that sentence. When your opponent's stuck on 2 lands, what?
That's true.
I mean, maybe he has a lot of creatures that don't fly in his hands that are better than that are bigger than a 2/2.
Okay.
It's a Scorpion. It can hold off big guys for a long time.
That's interesting. Yeah, my thought process usually goes towards like, I just want to keep building out my board and getting anything that I can start pounding on him with right now, so that I can get my advantage ahead and make it so that I shut the door on him, because he will eventually draw out of it.
That's true.
I don't want to give him time to do that, but I can see what you're saying. I couldn't see his hand at the time. So, all right, here's a Crow and Horse here.
And unsurprisingly, Willie did sideboard into the green cards.
There
Those
it is.
2 Sedge Scorpions are going to be pretty big against a red-green deck.
You predicted it.
Right, that's what I thought.
It was a good call,
you affirmed
Jake.
my prediction.
I said it made sense, but I think this was a good call. And even though we're actually back on Willie Edel versus Ben Chapman, it is still Scorpion beatdowns here in Oklahoma City.
Yeah, Sedge Scorpion is a really good card, especially in a sealed format like this where there are all these heroic triggers. Creatures get really out of hand really fast. Cards like Centaur Battlemaster, the card we saw dominate the last game.
Yeah,
that card does not match up well against a 1/1 Death Touch.
That's right. There's a Burnished Heart here for Ben Chapman.
Burnished Heart?
Both
and it got Farika's cured. Yep. So 2 Farika's cures for Willie Edel, takes out the first 2 drops. Both of them, well, effectively mana creatures in one way or another. One of them just taps for mana. The other one gets you ahead by getting a few lands. And here's a Leaf Crown Dryad for Ben Chapman and a Fellhide Minotaur for Willie Edel. So things have slowed down a little bit. Willie Edel does have attacks, though, with Fellhide Minotaur.
Right. Take 4? Yep, 13.
I mean, he'd be pretty happy to trade that Minotaur with a pump spell at this stage of the game. It seems like his opponent's kind of getting flooded out.
Absolutely. Here's Mogus's
Marauder.
Marauder.
Marauder is a very good card here.
Yes.
Not necessarily here, but just in general. There's a card that could potentially have constructed implications. It's 2/2 for 3 mana, and when it enters the battlefields, it gives Intimidate and Haste to a number of your creatures equal to your Devotion of Black.
Yeah, in that case it was 2. And it allowed an attack from Willie Edel from both of them, but he's just going to send in both. And here's a trade from Ben Chapman. He's going to trade off his Leaf Crown Dryad for the Marauder.
Yeah, and Chapman being flooded, that trade definitely favors Willie.
Mm-hmm. And
more damage cracking in. Ben down to 9 now. Only 3 turns left on the clock, and ooh, it's looking like that 3-turn window is chopped down to a 1-turn window here.
Wow, Vulpine Goliath for Willie Edel. That thing is just a huge beater. There's an Essian Courser.
It's the biggest fox I've ever seen.
For Ben Chapman. And that's not going to do much. Remember, the Goliath has trample as well, so it's not like you're going to be chump blocking very often, and everybody comes in. That's 7. Does Willie have a trick? Uh-oh, here's 4 mana. Wow, Willie's playing that card? I guess you have to. And that's going to be it, though. Game over. Willie Edel.
Yeah, I'm not the biggest fan. Out of all of the, the target two creatures you control, that whole cycle, I think
some of those cards
maneuver is not necessarily the greatest.
Yeah.
I think a lot of them are very good.
Are very good. That
Coordinated
one,
Assault?
Yes.
Dauntless?
Onslaught?
Onslaught?
Yep. Excellent card.
Again, ridiculous.
Heck of a Magic card, that one. All right,
Those cards are first picks.
Can be. So here's Willie Edel. Taking a look again, doesn't look like he's going to go for a big color swap. He didn't really get to see a whole lot there as his opponent basically just flooded out while Willie played some spells and beat him down. He's still taking a look, though.
That sideboarding seems very good for Willie.
Mm-hmm.
And also, you get a Polukranos.
Polukranos. I've been studying our guide. Yeah. Some of these names are pretty crazy here in Theros, for sure. It's almost like they're from a different world.
A more civilized world.
I don't know.
Definitely not a more civilized
you ever
world.
seen
Maybe satyrs? No.
Polis and yeah.
They're not very civilized folk. Lots of revelry.
Willie says that his dinosaurs were better. It's true. Vulpine Goliath, that's a dinosaur right there.
It is a dinosaur.
It was better, like.
All right, we're in round 5 here at Grand Prix Oklahoma City. I'm Marshall Sutcliffe. I'm in the booth with Jacob Van Lunen. Taking a look at Willie Edel, the 6th ranked player in the top 25 pro rankings, playing against Ben Chapman here. Both players are 4-0. Both players have a game win during this match, so the winner of this game 3 stays undefeated.
Yeah, this match will decide who's 5-0 after this.
Yeah. 5-0, an excellent start to a GP, puts you in a... you can kind of breathe easy, right? Okay. We're in a spot. We can do this.
Cutthroat Maneuver might also be a sideboard choice for Willie. Let me check that out.
You know, it also... Yeah, that's true.
No, he's playing it main.
Had
it's
to go
not
deep.
that bad.
Is it not that bad?
I don't think it's that bad.
All right. You tell yourself that, Jake. I won't believe
He's
you.
not playing Bunavarabos, though, which I kind of like better.
Yeah, I like that card a lot. Sure, he has his reasons. If I bump into him in the hall, I'll ask him about it. It's always fun to do that. Sometimes they go, yeah, no, that was wrong. Or sometimes they're like, no, I did it for this very specific reason, and it makes sense. And I'm like, okay. All right, there it is. Sedge Scorpion, turn 1 for Willie Edel. It's really, really nice start for him. That is what he wants to see. I think it's going to get in for 3 or 4 damage maybe, and it's going to just blank whatever the first big threat is from Ben Chapman, which right now is nothing.
I mean, it may seem inconsequential, these, like, a few ticks of damage, but that's 10% of the game already done for Willie.
Yep. All right, there's a Nessian Courser. In other words, something that Willie could just trade off his Scorpion with. It kind of depends on what he has. Freakus Cure, unfortunately, doesn't kill the Courser, so he might just need to do that. But, you know, Willie does have to try to manage this because, yeah, he's just going to do it because, you know, he has to be concerned about follow-up plays.
Definitely.
Borderland Minotaur here for Ben Chapman, and, yeah, that's the concern, right? Willie does nothing on turn 4, just stone nothing. But he's got Keepsake Gorgon on turn 5, which really nice little matchup there because he can block here if he wants, or he can wait and go for Monstrous. The beautiful part here, though, is that the only card he's really worried about is Coordinated Assault because it gives first strike. Otherwise, he gets a 2-for-1 off the block even if a pump spell happens. He does block. And he sees him tap 3 mana and 2-for-1 City. So, hey, I mean,
Can't
if you're
complain
really
about
Edel,
that,
yeah,
really.
that's a pretty favorable outcome. And he's going to get both creatures back.
Yeah, I mean, now Willie's like 2 cards ahead. It's basically like Ben Mulligan to 5 here.
Yeah, that's insane. He also has the chance to replay the Scorpion this turn, too. So Willie Edel putting on a bit of a clinic here in card advantage.
Yeah,
Gets a 2-for-1 on the. Yeah, he forces. Well, he encourages and then receives a 2-for-1 on the other end, and then gets 2 cards out of his March of the Returned.
But it seems that Ben has the Centaur Battlemaster, so Willie doesn't have a card that can deal with that. But he does have the Gorgon, I guess, so. It will eventually be able to deal with that.
And also the Sedge Scorpion does a fine job.
He could have the first strike.
Yeah, he could,
card.
but just on its own. All right, Ill-Tempered Cyclops, though, is going to kick things off for Ben Chapman as he attempts to rebuild. He does still have 4 cards in hand.
Is there really any other kind of Cyclops? That's what I want to know.
Really nice guy Cyclops. I haven't seen that one. No.
Generous Cyclops.
Yeah, no. I think Grumpy Cyclops is where Cyclops is. I mean, he only has 1 eye. I'd be angry too if I only had 1 eye. All right, Rage of Perforos to take down the Sedge Scorpion here. But Willie Edel running the mono Death Touch here. All right, so Ben scries, puts the card back up, and ships a turn back. He doesn't want to. He has no attack here. So let's see what Willie pulls off. Willie's sitting still on 5 lands. And he's going to play the Marauder and just use it to target itself and get in for a couple of damage here. Not a great play from Willie on this. I mean, he'd certainly rather be doing much bigger stuff, right, Jake?
Yeah, I mean, that's not where he wants to be. He gets to leave up Freakus Cure, though. He gets to put more devotion on the board in case he draws up Burn Overlord, which he may already have.
He's a couple mana away from the. Well, never mind. It's gone now anyway. So because he knows that he's still 2 land drops away from activating Keepsake Gorgon's monstrous ability, so he's just going to trade it off.
Ooh, nice.
Right.
Another Marauder.
Yep. Double Marauder.
Lots of doubles in Willie's deck.
And there's a Nessian Asp that is going to do a fine job with putting the brakes on Willie Edel's assault here. Ben Chapman at 12. Wow, and a follow-up play with the Burnished Heart. I like this here, although Freakus Cure finally found something to hit.
Yeah, and I think there's a Sip of Hemlock in Willie's hand also, which may not get played if he draws a 7th land, because then he's probably casting out Warren Overlord. Who doesn't want to cast that?
Oh, man, I want to cast that as often as possible. That card is awesome. But here it is, Sip of Hemlock. That means 6 damage is going to take away half of Ben Chapman's life total this turn.
Ben falling behind quickly here.
And he plays out that Centaur Battlemaster. Does he have anything else? I mean, he has been deploying perfectly reasonable threats here. What is
Pretty
this?
consistently. It looks like it's like a Pelucranos. Oh, no. He's just going to bestow this.
Baleful Eidolon is going to get bestowed, and he's going to send it in. And here comes the block, and it's going to leave 3 power and toughness on Willie Edel's side and nothing. So it's top deck time here for Ben Chapman.
Finds 5-4.
Okay.
Reasonably sized dude.
Yeah, a little bit better when you're being the aggressor, but hey, a 5-4 is a 5-4, and he'll take it.
Yeah, just a fire elemental, not the worst.
I think that's a Stone Shock Giant, right?
Yeah.
Oh, Fire Elemental, the original 5-4. That's what you were referring to?
Yeah,
okay.
I'm making
I'm with you. All right, so Baleful Eidolon enters the red zone, and Ben says, yeah, sure. And there it is, a Born Overlord for Willie Edel, putting himself in prime position here to finish off Ben Chapman and improve to 5-0. Number 6 ranked player, Willie Edel, on the Pro Tour top rankings. And his devotion is 3. Again, it counts the Born Overlord's mana cost, and then, of course, the Marauder as well, and the Baleful Eidolon, so it's actually 4. And those are all Harpies, and that's going to do it. Ben Chapman extends the hand, and Willie Edel doesn't look that happy. I mean, he's 5-0 at a GP. Shouldn't he be, like, smiling or something? Or?
I think that's kind of a courtesy kind of
it's
thing.
It's a politeness
where,
thing.
You know, when your opponent is frustrated about getting flooded when you win, not because, you know, it worked out that way necessarily, but
so good guy.